Preston, and I'll be doing my talking on game-based language learning. So first of all, just a quick definition, what is it? It's using video games to facilitate language learning, mostly second language acquisition. It provides an experiential learning approach to language learning. So I'll be explaining experiential learning more on the next slide. And most common form is gamification, so the likes of Duolingo and apps like that. So they're rewarding players with usually trophies, achievements, and XP. Provides social connections, so we have to share their progress with their friends and potentially have conversations with them. And there's also a sense of progression because of these XP levels and difficulty levels. So there's different types of learning. You have your formal learning, which is your traditional classroom environment, where you have a teacher, they're telling you the lessons, and that's that. Then there's the informal learning, which is the experiential learning I was talking about in the previous slide. So you're learning from experience, so this could be like workshops or shadowing somebody. And then finally there's incidental learning. This is where your goal isn't to actually learn something, but you learn something anyway, so learning from mistakes. So a simple example is you touch a hot toaster, you burn your hand, and you learn not to touch hot toasters again. You didn't intend to learn that, but it happened. So how do we learn a second language? There's 5 key stages to this. You have your pre-production phase, the first one. You're not really talking, you don't have any vocabulary. You're just listening to what's going on around you, trying to comprehend what's happening. You might be able to understand a few words after a while, and they might say, point to this object, and you can do it, or you can nod your head to indicate yes or no. Then there is early pre-production. So at this stage you can respond to simple questions, yes, and say yes or no. You might know a few simple phrases, like maybe 2-3 words per sentence. Then speech emergence. After 1 to 3 years, you're actually able to communicate in simple phrases. You can ask questions. You're still making grammatical errors, but you can have a very, very, very basic conversation. We move on to intermediate fluency. It's more complex sentences at this stage, and you're actually able to express your thoughts and opinions, and it's more the creative aspect of language you tend to learn there. And then finally, advanced fluency. It's near native level. You're actually to the point where you can actually understand the jokes and idioms of that language. So then, if we look at how we learn to play a game, there's different ways it's been done over the years. The original one was the tutorial level at the start of the game, so there's like the original Tomb Raider Mansion level, where you learn how to run, jump, look around, shoot, everything in this one level. You learn everything up front, and then you just throw it into the game and you have to remember it all. Then you have your in-game tutorials, which is like Far Cry 3, where you learn your skills as and when you need them. So as soon as you level up and earn a new ability, you'll learn how to use that ability at that point, and then you can use it. We have hints and tips, kind of more subtle, like in Skyrim, loading screens saying bears are scared of fire or whatever, and that gives you a sort of a subtle hint as to how to attack a bear. It promotes self-directed learning, where the actual player goes and learns himself, and there's more of a sense of accomplishment. And then finally there's the throw in the deep end method, which is like Minecraft, where you just throw in the middle of the world, there's things exploding around you, and game says deal with it, learn yourself, and you learn by experience, you learn by your mistakes. So let me look at how these two learning processes are similar. So they have a similar learning process, and I'm going to use the example of Minecraft. So when you start Minecraft, you're in the pre-production phase of language learning, in effect. You're just observing your surroundings. There's a creeper exploding, there's a skeleton shooting at you. You don't know what these blocks are around you, you don't have to craft tools, you know what you're doing. After about 5 minutes, you realise that after you've walked up to a creeper and it's putting you up, that you don't want to do that again. So you've learned your mistake, you learn how to survive a little bit. You probably, through trial and error, learn how to craft a pickaxe, and then you can mine stuff. So you start to learn more about the world around you, and more basic crafting tools. Then, as it goes on, you develop these more complicated skills, more complicated crafting, maybe the redstone stuff you'll see, and you're more able to deal with danger. And eventually you get to the point where you can survive and you know pretty much everything about the game world, and you die very, very rarely. So another way they're similar, if you can learn how to play one game, you can usually play any other game at that stage. So running and shooting Call of Duty are the same control schemes for running and shooting Grand Theft Auto. They're different games and different genres, but they still have similar similar control schemes with a few variations. And that's similar to if you learn a Romance language, a Latin-based language like French, you will probably recognise a few words in Spanish and Portuguese and Italian because they are based off the same language. So why should we use game-based language learning? It provides a safe environment for failure. So if we fail in a classroom environment or in a maybe a workshop environment, it can sometimes be discouraging and you don't want to continue. If you fail in a game, it's more seen as a challenge. If you die in a game, in a boss fight, you will then go back and you will fight that boss until you beat him. Doesn't matter how long it takes. You also have instant positive and negative feedback, rather than a formal approach where you write an essay or something, you have to wait a week to get it back, and they give you a big list of everything you've done, and you don't really learn by it straight away. Whereas in games, everything is instant. So if you try and jump, that's a challenge, and you fail, the instant feedback is you fall to your death, and that's how you know that you haven't succeeded. You can engage with the player, and that motivates and provides immersion. So yeah, if you're in a world and it has a narrative, it provides a bit of context to the language that you learn, and that will help players to learn. It's not all perfect though, unfortunately. It's a critique of the current state of game-based language learning. Some digital games, they're designed to be fun, designed to entertain people. That's their main goal. Learning games, their main goal is to teach and for players to learn. And because of that, the fun is almost an afterthought. So because of that, you can kind of lose engagement and immersion with the player. So they can quite easily lose interest. The rewards you get are often meaningless. Like, you will go, you get a trophy, which is great, but what can you do with that trophy? That trophy doesn't help you learn a language. If you look at something like World of Warcraft, you unlock a sword, and that sword can then be used to go do another mission, which unlocks a better sword, so you can do a harder mission. So the rewards are actually helping you play the game, whereas the rewards in games-based language learning, they're not actually helping you learn the language. It's just a show and tell almost. Yeah, and that's it. Any questions?
Okay. Will you be doing an evaluation of Duolingo?
I'll consider it, yeah.
Okay, because Geraldine, you remember Geraldine Exton talking about gamification?
Mm-hmm.
We've done one already, we can help you with that one. Are you going to propose, James, a GBLL system?
Yeah, I have thoughts on what would make a good system. I think something like Minecraft, where you put in a world and you have to learn the language through interaction with the world rather than a quiz-based game.
Would you be interested in proposing your own based on others?
Possibly. I've seen some research. One person made it was basically a house, and you walk around the house interacting with the objects to learn, like, what is a table in French, what is TV in French. Quite interesting.
If I may make a suggestion
Yeah.
for a game, there's a game called Cart Life, which is, in it you play as an immigrant who's kind of working a crappy job in a foreign country, but your character doesn't speak the language that well, so like all the dialogue is kind of janky and you can't recognise any of the signs or anything. So that might be an interesting case study.
Yeah, that's an interesting approach, because that's quite similar to how we learn our first language. We're not given a dictionary, but we learn from just interaction.
Also, there's we talked about Minecraft.
Yeah.
There's a certain amount of knowledge you have from not necessarily playing games, but just coming into it. It's like you may have read a lot of fantasy books, so it's like skeleton archers are kind of a cliche. So it's like, oh, there's a skeleton. It's probably going to shoot. Yeah, it's shooting me.
Yeah, and that goes back to what I was saying about the how you learn a language. If you learn one Latin-based language, you probably understand another one.
Yeah, you probably understand. Like there's probably verbs.
Yeah, so you understand that the skeleton is bad from other games as well, so it translates to that. And same with the zombies.
Yeah.
This toy that was there, it's not very popular nowadays, but it was a big toy in the past 50 years or so. It was where you had binoculars and there was kind of slides in it, and you press the button on the side and you rotate around the slide. You could take them out and in, but that company is coming out with a new version virtual reality, and the idea is around education for a game, and they have a few demos already, and you can look at it online, but one of the examples is that they're showing you like the solar system. You can go to each solar system and fire a cannon and have different gravity levels. The atmosphere is different, so you can see how things bounce against stuff and just generate an idea of that.
Multilingual?
It's not to do with languages, but it's more of just like
Design?
it's not to do with languages, but more so to
Physics.
do with like learning from games, and I don't know if that.
Yeah, very cool. Probably apply to language, that would be interesting.
Mm.
A good way to immerse people as well, to see the world around.
Yeah.
Another example for like kind of a good education game. This isn't really languages, but Space Engineers is a game where you're just in space building ships with all the kind of physics are there, like inertia, kind of like perpetual motion.
You mentioned the 5 key stages of second
Yeah.
language. Like, are you going to concentrate on one level, or which?
I'd like to go through maybe the first 3 in particular anyway. Because
You know, games lend themselves to vocabulary acquisition more than, say, advanced level, or?
yeah, I'd say it's probably better for just the original style phase. I think the fluency would probably come from actual experience in the real world rather than games. I think maybe for games-based language learning, it's probably just that kickstart into language, and then after that you can roll out into the real world.
Okay.
From that.
Question? James, well done.